Welcome to the Unbridled Woman with your host, Deanne Rose. Dive deep into the essence of your feminine light, harness the strength that lies within, and rise beautifully into your authentic power. Now, here's Deanne.
Welcome to the Unbridled Woman podcast, here where fierce hearts meet limitless possibilities. Today, my guest Nikki and I are going to delve into the intrinsic topic of rumination, the act of continuously thinking about the same thoughts, often negative, which can spiral into a cycle that's hard to break. And I know personally this is something that I do often. And I think it's perfect as we approach this new year to address this common mental habit, and because it can impede our growth and our happiness. So welcome to you all to the Unbridled Woman. As always, I'd like to start with an opening blessing for our show. As we embark on this journey together, let us be guided by the strength of our convictions and the courage of our spirits. May each episode illuminate our paths, spark our passions, and connect us to the unbridled power within. Here's to the women who dare to dream, to the souls that speak their truth, and to the beautiful tapestry of stories that we weave. May this space be a haven of inspiration, a catalyst for change, and a testament for this indomitable spirit of womanhood. Let's unleash our potential together. So, I invite you all, if you're able to, just close your eyes, and we're going to take 3 deep belly breaths together. As you inhale, just feel the breath move into your body and fill up every single cell. And as you exhale, feel your body soften and release. Another inhale, bringing the precious prana into your being, filling up and slowly releasing what no longer serves you in this moment. And one more breath, probably the biggest breath that you have taken today. Inhale and hold for just 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. And slowly exhale, coming into this present moment together, into our sacred circle. So I am so excited. I'm honored to introduce my guest for today. She is the inspiring Dr. Nikki Ciso, and she's a doctor. She has a PhD in holistic health and nutrition and a master's in sustainability from Harvard. She's been on a personal development quest for 25 years. From spiritual books to retreats and workshops to shamans and energy healers around the world, Dr. Nikki is determined to release ancestral trauma and reprogram her subconscious so that she can show up in her highest self and be of greatest service. She also hosts her podcast, Legends, where she interviews legends on their journey to greatness. So she is here. She's going to share a bit about her journey in becoming an unbridled woman, how she is showing up as a change maker. And then in the second half of our journey together, Nikki and I will get into a more intimate conversation with the word rumination, why we do it, what is it good for, and how can we best use reflection for our greater good. So Nikki, I asked my guest this, it's usually a surprise, but what does the word unbridled mean to you?
Ooh, I love that. First of all, thank you very much, Deanne, for having me on. I really appreciate you and appreciate to be here. Unbridled, to me, I hear unbound, right? There's a level of freedom of expression, freedom of authenticity, showing up my most authentic, vibrant, bold, badass self. That's what I hear with unbridled.
I love that.
What does it mean to you?
What does it mean to me? Yes, it means being untethered to the old programming that we've been taught, right? So I feel when we are unbridled, we've looked at those teachings that were given to us, and we've looked through them and say, what is true for us still? and we keep that and we let go of what no longer serves us. And that brings us, just like you said, into our more authentic expression of ourselves.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Mm.
Yes. So, so for our listeners here, I would love to know a little bit about a story from you about coming into your unbridled woman, into your remembrance, your reclamation, and rising into how you show up here now in this world.
Yeah, my story began. I was born to a very loving, very, very protective, I'm so grateful mother. But her start wasn't so as fortunate, and she was the eighth child out of a Holocaust survivor.
Mm.
And so she came in to a very unsafe world with a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. Probably even before she came out, she felt that in her mother's womb, and then was shown evidence throughout her childhood that the world was very unsafe, right? And she didn't get a lot of her needs met. And so she learned to create her own safety by controlling everything, and was very critical of the world,
Mm.
naturally so, right?
Yeah.
Um, and narcissistic tendencies begin when with a child that doesn't get their needs met, so they learn that they have to actually take care of their own needs. Nobody else is going to meet them. And as that grows, it starts off as a healthy coping mechanism, but as life progresses, it can become um, much more detrimental. If you're always only putting yourself first and you only see your own needs, you can block out the needs of anyone else and not even realize you're doing it.
Right.
So, um, despite, again, my mother was incredibly loving. I was so incredibly fortunate. She cared only about my education, my safety. She studied to get a training in how to raise a child optimally, so that I didn't have the same experiences that she had.
Mm.
And yet, it often felt as though no matter what I did was not going to be good enough, because she would need to do it her way or have some kind of correction or critique. And
Mm-hmm.
and so everything I did um, to this day gets some kind of critique or judgment, or do it this way, or you know I was just there for Christmas. So I spent a week with her, and I got to actually, for the first time in my life, witness the neuroses. Essentially, it's a neurotic way of operating where you need to control everything, and every single task was given to me with directions.
Yes.
I'm like, Mom, I'm 45. I'm pretty sure I know how to wash a dish. Like, I've done this before. I promise you, you can step away. I will take care of this without your like micro managing directions.
Mm-hmm.
And and it sounds so little when it's just one thing, but when it's all day long, it adds up. And then there's this constant sense throughout my life. And there was this constant sense of no matter what I do, it's not going to be good enough. I used to laugh that I've made my mother tea 1,000 times and I've never got it right. It's either too hot, too cold, not enough water, too much water. Where's the milk? Why'd you put milk? Like
There's no win. There's no win situation there.
there's no win. And then the end result is then I retract and I don't do anything for her because I know I'm going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get the guilt trip of like, why can't you love? This is a one-way street loving scenario, right? Like, you cannot win.
Oh.
But what I realized in this past trip is that I got to witness the neuroses and understand that it's just her brain. She's got a hyperactive amygdala that needs to create safety by controlling everything. She knows what's going to happen, and she creates safety for herself.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with me and my capabilities, right? I form this inner belief that she doesn't think I'm capable of
Mm.
accomplishing anything, right? I'm just clearly she doesn't think I'm capable. But in actuality, it has nothing to do with me. And as soon as I was able to see that over Christmas, it was like it just released so much for me.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it was really remarkable. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'll pause there for a moment. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I see, I mean, how the healing is for, to be able to take yourself out. You almost like kind of took a meta view of what was going on with her, and you probably seeing yourself here, and, and how beautiful that, you're realizing that it isn't about you. And when you're growing up, though, you don't know that.
No,
You don't
no.
know that. And I can feel, a, I relate to some of the things that you were saying there. I remember I have a distinctive memory with my dad, and this had to go about like how wiping the countertops. Like, if they were,
Mm.
I'd wipe the countertops when I, growing up, and then he'd come back and like wipe it again. And it's like, oh, you missed a spot. And to me, I was like, oh, okay, like that's, but the more that happens, I know for me, it was then the self-doubt of like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't do anything right. Or, there's, I just can't do enough. Or what if I even try that, it probably not going to, I won't do it right. So, sometimes you get to the thought, I would get to the thought, like, why even try it? Like
Right.
you said, like, why even do some help, do something for this person who's going to, you know, quote unquote, criticize me for not doing it right. Um, but it's a safety mechanism, just knowing, because I'm sure she could never, if anything happened outside of that control, she wouldn't know what to do.
Right.
She'd
Right.
freeze up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's so interesting because our brains are wired to, they get programmed from, this is what I learned from the Hoffman Institute, from 0 to 7. Your brain is designed, first of all, to take everything personally, which is very unhelpful when from 0 to 7, you basically need all of your needs met by someone else. When you're a toddler, if you're cold, someone else has to know that and get you a blankie.
Right.
Right? And you can't even communicate it. So there's this guessing game. And then if the brain is designed to take everything personally, well, we're like kind of doomed to fail. And then the brain even further then seeks evidence of those beliefs. So not only am I not good enough to get my needs met, I am then now designed to seek evidence of how that's true continuously. And where you place your attention is what's going to show up, right? You have a reticular activating system. It's about the size of your pinky. I've studied the brain. I'm a trained neurofeedback technician. I'm fascinated by the brain. And so reticular activating system is about the size of your pinky. It's right above the base of your above the cerebellum, where
Okay.
the brain attaches to your spine. And this literally, its job is to filter stuff out. So we think our senses are letting things in, which they are, but what in actuality, that reticular activating system is filtering things out so that you're not bombarded by 10 million things that you're seeing, smelling, hearing, right? All
Mm.
these senses, you're collecting 10 million bits a second. And so the brain's job is actually to filter out all of that noise and only focus on what what your brain is focused on, right? Your choice in focus, and that is sourced in your beliefs, in your belief system. So if you have the thought that my needs are not being met, I'm not good enough to get my needs met, and then you have a system in your brain that's now seeking evidence of that truth. Well, you can find that with a girl just looking at you and looking away. You're like, oh, see, she doesn't like me, or I'm not good enough for her.
Right. Right.
You can find it
Wow.
in the most minuscule things throughout your entire lifetime. You can collect that evidence all day long.
Hmm.
So very important to look at these beliefs, especially the not good enough. That's kind of the root core wound for most human beings. Is that's what all the, like, not lovable, I'm not good enough to be loved, not worthy, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough to be feel worthy, right? It all kind of boils down to this not good enough, which is on a imaginary spectrum. There's no such thing as good enough.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
It's all made up, which is wild to think. So we're measuring ourselves on this like in this parameter that doesn't exist. It's a failed system. So we're doomed to fail if that's
That is
right.
true. Yes,
It's an
yes.
infinite yardstick. Where you are today is not where you'll be in 10 years, and the goalpost when you get to 10 years later in your development is going to move again. So you're still not going to be good enough because now you've got a further out stick that, right? Like, that makes sense?
Yes, yes, yes. And I think there's beauty in that because we can always are continuously growing
Right.
and so it's good that we actually don't get to where we want to get to because then we'd be limiting ourselves. We always have to push it forward.
Yeah, and that's the trick, is to look how far you've come,
Mm-hmm.
not look. It's always good to have goals on where you want to move yourself towards, great, but always make sure you're reminding yourself of how far you've come. And that's your confidence booster, right? Versus you're like feeling knocked down because you're not where you think you should be by now.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I actually find comfort in friends that I've had, over the last, especially the last 10 years that have been with me. And it's so nice when I'm kind of like, oh, what have I done in 10 years? And then they tell me, I'm like, oh, I
Huh,
am pretty badass. Like,
right?
yes, you're absolutely, and then it's like a reminder, like, oh yeah, I remember that. Okay, yeah, because I think we just sometimes forget, or what it's almost like we're what is that? The fish doesn't know it's in water,
Mm.
because we're in it ourselves, right? We're not going to get in that reflection from other people about what they've seen. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So true.
so,
Yeah.
I'm curious now, like, okay, so, um, yeah, so you saw that had an experience with your mom and had, like, this isn't about me. When in that trip did it happen and how did did it give you a few other days to still be with her and see it from a different lens?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was actually towards the last couple days that it all of a sudden just clicked. I'm like, oh, this is just, I get to witness the neurosis. It's just the way her brain operates. Her amygdala is hot, right? So it's firing like red light, red light, red light, red alert. And so if anything is out of place or it spills or it's like there's this frazzled moment of, it's not perfect, and it sends her into a tizzy sort of to avoid that chaos. She's got to control. It's fascinating when you see that the brain is just operating at its optimal. The way it's designed is to stay safe.
Mm.
Our job is to our brain's design is to keep you alive, stay safe. And we do that through all sorts of different ways. Yeah. Hers is through controlling. But when I back in the day when I used to say you're really controlling, she would freak out. She'd be like, I'm not trying to control.
Yeah, right,
It- the underlying thing that I didn't realize is she's trying to stay safe.
right.
It's
Yeah.
not control. She doesn't want to control things. She wants to stay safe. But she does that through controlling things.
Through controlling, yeah, yes,
Right.
because we think it makes it to someone in that, and again, I feel from me, I was that way from several years, especially um, when I became a mom. I really, the control, because I wanted everybody to be safe.
Right.
And, didn't want any chaos because, that would just, I didn't have time for chaos.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. I could just have, if things were just so, and, it's like, I knew I couldn't, and I think maybe that's the thinking is, I know I can't control the world, but I
Mm,
can control my world.
yeah.
Right. And so this little part of my little safety mat on the whole entire planet, like I think a lot of people think I can control this.
Mm,
And And it's also though, it's very limiting though, right? It's very limiting in how you're experiencing life.
Yeah. Yeah. And it pushes people away, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the presence of someone nonstop controlling me.
Right. Even
Right.
if you're like you're in the mindset like, well, it's not personal, it's not about me. It's still exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there were a couple of times where I stopped. We were making food for Christmas, and she was kind of like frazzled about it, making sure, people are coming over, so she wants everything perfect and it has to be done in time. And I looked at her. I was like, I hold her hand. I look me in the eyes. She kept looking away. I look me in the eyes. Right? And I'm holding her hands. I said, let's take a night, 3 deep breaths, just like you started the podcast, right? Three
Yeah.
deep breaths. We are here. The point of today is to enjoy each other and to be
Yeah.
present and to love on each other and have this beautiful loving day. The food will get done. The everything will get done when it gets done. Can we enjoy today? Is that an option? Is that more important to you, or getting the food done as fast as possible so that you can sit and relax on the couch? Like, can we do this in a really loving, present way and enjoy co-creating and right and being creative together in the kitchen? And like it calmed her, and then she was present, and we like had this beautiful rest of the day together.
Oh, nice. What a beautiful
Yeah.
gift to give her. Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, what's more important to you? Getting this all done very quickly, or being present with your daughter and enjoying this moment together?
Mm-hmm.
And it like landed, right? Because we don't realize we're making choices sometimes. And sometimes when you give someone the two choices, okay, so there's this frazzled way of doing something, right?
You're right.
Right? Or there's really centered, loving, peaceful way of doing it. And ultimately, what is your intention? To have this day with me, or to get everything done perfectly so that, you can get credit for being an incredible chef?
Right. No, I think that's really an important point is, and I think we should do that. Oh, it's like it's setting your intention every day, right? What's your
Yeah.
intention for this day? What do you want to accomplish? And yeah, and maybe it is. I want to be the best damn chef today and get everything done on a certain time. Like, and great. Okay. So now you know that's the person you're dealing with, and then this is where we're going. But
Yeah.
yeah, but is there a choice? Like, is there another way you want to be that's more
Yeah.
important to you right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And who do you need to be to get there, right? Who do you need to be how do you want to show up today? Do you want to show up frazzled, or do you want to show up peaceful and loving and patient and accepting that things are going to go different ways than you planned? And it's okay. You're going to flow like water, and it's all divinely orchestrated. Just keep trusting, right? That's the practice.
it is. Yes, yes. And as you're speaking, I'm like, oh, my body starts to relax when you're speaking like, oh, that
Mhm.
feels so good. And I also know from being that controlling person that it's a process,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not an automatic on off switch. I think I had somebody on here, we were talking, about anxiety too. Like
Mm.
some people are like, well, just snap out of this. No, you can't do that. It's a process. It's an awareness. It's your mom now being, and maybe she'll be more aware if this is coming up for her. There might be a time where she's like, she can think back like, oh, I remember when Nikki was here and this was happening and she said this. And that's how we progress and grow as people, right? To become better versions and letting go of, like in the beginning when you asked me what unbridled means, like what's been taught to us all this time. What have I been this kind of living? What I have been living? Is it really true for me? Like, can I
Mm.
soften and just let go and go into the flow and be present?
Yeah. Yeah. Trust is the big one. That's
Yeah.
that's the that's the foundation. Can you trust that everything that shows up is exactly as you need it and in divine service? can you trust that? But it's easy to say sure when it's this loving, easy, beautiful thing that shows up. But what happens when it's a challenge or a car
Right.
accident or right or something where that's not planned and not exactly as you desire in that moment? Can you trust that there's actually a divine orchestration that's flowing for you? That and also then to inquire where you may have been the creator of what showed up, even
Mm-hmm.
if, right? Like,
Absolutely.
what were your thoughts that led to a car accident, or things are never work out for me, or right, or I'm running out. I don't know if I'm going to have enough money to pay rent, and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden you find that you don't have enough money to pay rent. it,
You kind of manifested that, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you start when you have those thoughts. You start again. Your belief system, your brain is designed to seek evidence of the truth,
Mm-hmm.
and so you'll create that path for yourself with those beliefs.
Yeah, yeah. It's I think that is such a beautiful, even though you might think, I was hearing them like, oh, I don't want to, that doesn't sound really good. But we get to choose, right? If you can,
Mhm.
if you know that you're actually doing those kind of thoughts and creating that kind of reality that you're not really that in love with, well, then what can you create for yourself, right? You
Right.
can do that as well. So it's that choice of where do you want, it's that, which wolf, which angel there are you going to be feeding on your shoulder, right?
Yeah,
The one that's
exactly.
going to lead you to your life of your dreams, or the one that keeps, sucking the energy and vitality out of you and making you a victim to your circumstances.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think
It,
this is going to be good for our next half, because as we go into rumination, um, and talking about what all that brings up, I think trust is going to also come up, and really changing some belief systems as well. So we're going to be taking a short break, and when we come back, we will be talking more about the rumination and how it differs from reflection. We're going to talk a little bit more about how important reflection is on our past, instead of staying in our past. So please stay tuned, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Nikki, for sharing your story about your mom and such a healing experience that you've had for yourself. And I know you gave her a beautiful gift, with just bringing her back into the present moment. So everyone, stay tuned. Again, thanks for listening. I appreciate you, and we will be right back. Welcome back to the Unbridled Woman. I am Deanne Rose, and I'm here with the beautiful Nikki Ciso, who has been sharing her unbridled story. And we've been diving a little bit about having a mom who really kept her safe, and also was quote unquote controlling, and her healing experience over the last week of visiting of not only for herself but also her mom. And we're going to move into a little bit more, and we talked a lot about trusting, about going with the flow, being in the present, trusting source, and that everything is working out for us. And I think that's a beautiful segment into our topic today, which is rumination. And technically, rumination is just, when I looked up the definition, is just repetitive thoughts about the past. And usually they're about negative. It's a judgment, that we're using a lot of judgment out of ourselves, and and the two key words that I think come up with I can't say that. You know what I'm talking about. Rumination. Are should and could have. And so, Nikki, let's go into this, because I think it's as we go into 2024, people start to reflect upon their previous years, and maybe we do our little celebrations of things that we accomplished, but human nature is to go to what we didn't accomplish or what came up short. And so how can we use those experiences and change the rumination to reflection and growth?
Love that. Yeah, I consider rumination often, not always, but I think it's triggering an unresolved belief
Hmm.
or an unresolved trauma, you could say, or there's something that led to a belief that is unjustified in your brain. So you keep kind of like almost replaying it because you haven't accepted this. You don't want to accept it as truth. So I'm going to share this concept of how to stop ruminating through a story that I experienced just this past Christmas with my mother. So my mom knew that her sister, Vicky, was going to be calling. And she's like, Vicky would love for you to say hello and say hi next time she calls. I said, no, thank you. I'm good. I know Vicky. She has a heart of gold, but she hasn't done enough emotional intelligence training or work on herself to have any kind of filter. And so she can blurt out really like mean daggers and not even realize it. And it's just part of her makeup. And so she's just someone that I find I keep out of my life. Because there's toxicity there in the way that she thinks and the way that she communicates, and it's not healthy. And I explained this to my mother. I said, I'm responsible for the health of my space. My responsibility is my environment and what I allow in. That's why I don't watch the news, right? I don't associate with people that are super toxic. And I shouldn't have said her name, but she's someone that I consider not very healthy in the way she thinks. And so I expressed this to my mother. I said, I'm good. Sure enough, she calls the next day and she goes, oh, is Nikki there? My mom goes, yeah, she's here. Nikki, come say hi. And I was like,
No.
like just fumes, like steam is coming out of my ear. Like I'm just livid, right? So I said, hi, Vicky, how are you? And we do this little 1 minute catch up. I'm good. How are you doing? Yes, I love Austin. Yeah, everything's great. And then sure enough, she goes, so why do you have to be such a selfish little girl and not visit your mother more often?
Oh.
And I was like,
Hmm.
there it is. Like I know the dagger is going to come at some point. She calls me a selfish little girl, calls me names while I'm at my mother's visiting. So uses guilt and shame and name calling while I'm doing the thing that she's calling me out
Yeah.
on.
Mm-hmm.
I just go, goodbye, Vicky, and I walk away. Right. And both of them just like, what happened? Yeah, I can hear them like frazzled. And I walk away. And then afterwards, my mother comes to my room after she finishes the conversation. She comes to the room and I said, Mother, that was not okay. And she's like, well, what? You just had to say hi. What was the big deal? I said, well, I told you, I expressed my needs and you specifically disregarded them.
Right.
And that's you don't have respect for my needs. And that's not okay. And so she then was again tried to like justify her behavior and said that essentially I'm making a big deal of nothing and all I had to do was say hello. And I said, you're continuing to disrespect my needs by not even acknowledging what I'm sharing with you now. Right. So like she's trying to like walk away and justify her behavior. And all of a sudden I was like, this is not okay behavior. I'm saying this in a very calm way. I'm just like, I'm not okay with this. And so anyway, long story short is we ended up going on this long hike. And the next like hour I spent ruminating in my head. This woman does not respect my needs. I'm so mad that she does not respect my needs. Like what I couldn't have expressed myself more gracefully. And she
Yeah.
still
What more could you have done? Right.
she showed no respect. And so I'm livid in my head. I'm pissed because this is not a brand new story. This is like my whole life long. There's tons of evidence that I've collected of how she does not respect my needs, right?
Right. Yeah.
And we got to the end of the hike and we sat down. I was like, Mother, I just need 5 minutes to meditate. And I sat on this big boulder. I'm in Scottsdale, red rocks in the middle of cactus and just
Mm.
absolutely stunning. You know, the energy is just grounding and peaceful and right. And I sat down on this rock. The sun was shining. I sat and I took my few deep breaths and I asked Spirit, as I always do, show me what I need to see. Show me what I need to see right now. And I heard, choose the opposite belief. What's
Mm.
the opposite belief of my mother does not respect my needs? She does respect my needs. And now, second step, actively seek evidence of the opposite belief. Well, how can I find evidence that she does respect my beliefs, my needs? Well, in this moment, I had evidence right now. She allowed me 5 minutes to sit and meditate. She gave me that grace. She did not argue. She sat under a tree. She gave me the space. I'm like, I have evidence right now that she actually does respect my needs. And
Nice.
then it instantly, Deanna, I'm telling you, instantly stopped the ruminating
Mm.
because I stopped that loop. That it's the ruminating is a feedback loop of you
Right.
have this belief that is like driving you bananas. And it's when you shift it to the opposite and actively seek that evidence that you can find evidence in anything you choose. Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We really can. You can find evidence of everything. Vaccines are great, vaccines are shit. Like
Right.
there's evidence of it all, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And there's evidence that my mother does respect my needs. She's been at service of my needs my whole life, right? And I can easily say. So as soon as I did that, it's like instant lift. All of it lifted. My body was light. I got to hold her hand and support her back down the whole mountain. And it was
Mm.
beautiful. We were back to a beautiful, loving space. So that's the technique. It's identify. So 3 steps. First is identify what the belief is that's causing you to ruminate,
Okay.
right? You can do this with money. I don't have enough money to pay rent. I don't have my money I'm running out of money. And that's going to cause you to kind of loop on it. Or a lot of times ruminating is with a relational, it's with a relationship that you're in, that you're mad at someone else and you have this belief that they're doing something to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or they've done something and you're right and they're wrong. So where's the wrongness of their behavior would be one
That you're
possible
searching
way.
for. Yeah, you need yes, to see
Right,
confirmation of their wrongness. Right.
right.
Yes.
What is the opposite of that belief? How could they be actually right? How could it be that you have plenty of money or you have enough? You've always had, and then seek evidence of how you've always had enough money to survive.
Mm-hmm.
You've always had, you've always been able to make it through. This person has actually showed you loving attempts many times, right? Like whatever
Right.
it is,
Mm-hmm.
actively seek evidence of the opposite, right? So identify the belief, what's the opposite, and then actively seek evidence, and it will stop the ruminating right at its core.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that example. And I I actually had that happen to me. And I now as you're talking, I'm like, okay, that this is exactly what I was doing, was ruminating. And it is a little similar to what you said about shifting. And so I wasn't really happy with some of my Christmas gifts this year. And I was feeling underappreciated. And
Mm.
it was coming up. And I couldn't shake this thought. I was trying to think of I was being grateful for everything, but it was just like, and so I was looking. That piece of my brain was looking for, like, oh no, it's just you're not appreciated. People don't see you for all that you do, and um, so I sat with that for a while, and I for me, crying is cathartic for me. So like that was how I was expressing
Mm.
this through my, releasing that stress in my body. And after that, I started to shift my, no, just see, I was able to see more and more in my life how I am appreciated. And it brought calmness to me. It brought calmness to me. I was able to go to sleep. And literally the next day, everybody in my family that was here visiting, all 5 people, in separate occasions, told me how much they appreciated all the work I did all this Christmas. And it was just like, thank you. Like I didn't need, there was a part of me that was looking for that material evidence of how appreciated I was, but truly, really what my heart really wanted was the verbal, the acknowledgement of that, just to be seen. And so, like you said, it was a little similar to that change, that shift. I was able to recognize what was happening, identified it. The opposite for me was, how can I get to this appreciation without a material thing, like seeing the non-material appreciation in my life, and then actually was able to receive that from others. That was the evidence that came to me.
I love that. Two things that you said. Reflection, looking back and seeing when was the first time I've experienced that where I didn't feel appreciated is actually a really interesting experience or exercise, because then you can kind of see the root source, and then you see it as an adult and you get to form a new belief around it. That's really supportive. And then when you choose to the opposite belief, like we started with a reticular activating system, it goes to work to find that evidence for you, and you can find it that way, and you become a magnet to it. You actually open the receptors, right? The energetic receptors to attracting and calling in what you desire. Because if you're in that thought of like, I'm not appreciated, you're actually going to attract experiences that will confirm that belief.
Right, exactly.
Right. We are so magnetic, we don't even realize our power. We really are. So it's not only that we have this filtration system, but we're also magnetizing, we're attracting the desires and the beliefs that we have. And so super important. The evidence will flow in based on your beliefs because of it.
Yeah. And I experienced that as well as you. I saw that immediately. Just, coming
Amazing.
in. Yeah, I love that. It goes back to we are creators. We are creators of our reality. What do we want to experience? And sometimes I just kind of want to be in that pain body for a while, right? I want to be in that, oh, woe is me sometimes. But then I know I shift out of that. Like, it's just, I know it's a stage. It's a feeling that's coming up. I give myself permission to feel it, because I know I'm not going to get stuck in it. Like years ago, I would never go there because I was like, I'm going to get stuck in it, so I'm not even going to go there. And then it just keeps coming up. I was magnetizing more and more into my life because I was resisting it, right? So I wasn't seeing it and like, okay, welcoming. Okay, what do you need? How can I, take you in and give you what you need, and then let's move on, right? So,
Yeah.
So what can we do in our few minutes left? So about learning from these experiences, or these having. So so let's go to your example. Learning about that, she doesn't take my needs. All right, that you shifted out of that, and like, okay, so going forward, what's going to happen?
Yeah, I think what you just said was the most important is sitting with it. So if in my case it was she doesn't respect my needs, well, Byron Katie taught to do the turnaround. So how am I not respecting my needs? And so in that case, I actually did express my needs. And so that's what I've learned over the years, is how I actually wasn't respecting my own needs. I wasn't communicating my needs. I actually learned not to communicate my needs as a child because I was called a selfish little girl if I right, or I was taught that it wasn't safe to express my needs, so I don't always share them. And so that's been a common theme. So my point is, look for where this belief is showing up in all areas of your life. Like with men, I very much didn't express my needs, and I let men that weren't right for me in, and I didn't share what I truly desired, how I wanted to be treated. I just expected them to know how to treat me, and then would get mad at them when they didn't. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can kind of then take the learnings and put it across all areas of our lives and examine how is this showing up in relationship, in my health, in my wealth, in my right, all these different dynamics that play out. Does
Yeah.
that support?
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Cause it does go back to us and how we are showing up for ourselves in our life. So I guess if I was, so I, my next step is for me to look at where I am not appreciating myself or giving myself the appreciation, um, maybe not expressing it. Um, so yeah, I love this journey that we're all on.
It's a
You can never
journey.
get bored
No.
when you're growing as a soul here in this human body. You know, like there's so yeah, just when you think you got something down and then goodness gracious, something comes up that's like, all right, I have another experience that I get to learn from.
Yeah. Yeah.
And share
Ooh,
it with others, right? Because I think this is
yeah.
beautiful. We have this platform right now. I mean, just you and I right now in this, you know, in this 60 minutes have had examples of this. I mean, can you just imagine who are listening, how many times, you know, people are going to relate to this. And if we actually
Mm.
go back and reflect upon our past, like, oh yes, there's other times I should have, I could have learned a little bit more from that
Yeah. Yeah.
experience.
What flowed through for me recently is to actually sit in front of a mirror in the
Mm.
morning and say my I ams. So I am loving, I am kind, I am so much fun. I am a loyal friend. I am creative. I am bold. I am courageous. I go through all the things that I love about myself. And it can be just for 3 minutes, but to start my day looking at myself in the eyes, in the mirror, right? And
Yeah.
saying the things that I love about myself, showering myself with the love, the respect, the appreciation, starting my day off like that, oh my God, I turn into a queen. Right? And I walk, my
Oh,
shoulders are
yeah.
back. I'm sitting up tall. I'm so proud. Because I remind myself of who I am and how far I've come and how I'm centered in my
Mm.
love. And my intention is to spread joy and love and happiness and compassion. So
Yeah.
I've been doing that as my morning practice now, and it is magnificent. The effects are really, really powerful and can take literally a minute to 3 minutes.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's a
Yeah,
really great thing to bring in for the new year.
yeah.
Um, and thank
Try
you
it.
for that reminder.
Commit to 1 week every morning sitting in front of the mirror. I promise you, you'll actually like miss it if you ever stop. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of I think it was a YouTube. It's been around for a long time, but that little girl, you know, she's little girl's on top of the counter in her bathroom, and she's just saying all these good things about herself. It's just the cutest thing, and you know, you look at that like, oh, isn't that cute? But it's like that's amazing, and
Yeah.
yes, let's do that for ourselves. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, we have to uplift ourselves so we can uplift others,
Yeah.
right? Well, you
And
know,
when you start that way, your brain then actively seeks throughout the day evidence of all that you just stated.
yeah, yeah, and I love like I'm taking that on, especially the like I am fun and I am playful because I feel like that little my inner child needs to be she needs to be activated in
Mm,
2024,
yeah.
and I am fun, I am playful. Yes, yes, that's coming in,
Yeah.
and I want to draw more and more of that in.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been a beautiful, beautiful conversation. Thank you so much, Nikki. How can people find out more about you, what you're doing, and yeah, get more into your world?
Thank you. One more quick suggestion for those that have anxiety. I am safe. And repeat
Mm,
that one quite a few times. I am safe. I am safe.
yeah,
Really big one. Really create that like calming of the nervous system. I am safe. In this moment, I am safe.
Love it.
Yeah. So connecting with me, the best is I would love for you to listen to my podcast as well, Legends with Dr. Nikki. You can find it on Spotify or iTunes. I also am on Instagram at Dr. Nikki Ciso, my full name, and my website, drnikkiciso.com. Yeah, I'm not too much on socials. My podcast is probably the best way to stay
Yeah,
connected.
yeah, and I definitely listen to it. It's on Spotify, right? And
Yeah,
Legends, yes.
yeah,
I
yeah.
highly recommend it. A lot of beautiful, high vibrational people that you interview.
Thank
Um,
you.
so thank you so much, Nikki. I appreciate you being here with me, and I appreciate you all who are listening. And please join me next week on the show. And it's going to be a solo episode where we are going to get deep and personal about my sharing my intimate details of my sexual awakening, the journey that has been both transformative and empowering. And I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes look into what it's like to be part of my coaching world, where we embrace the full spectrum of your personal growth and empowerment. So prepare for a candid and enlightening discussion with yours truly, and have a beautiful, beautiful day. I'm going to give us a blessing as we sign off. As we close today, let us carry forward the strength, wisdom, and inspiration we've shared. May the stories we've woven together ignite a flame within, guiding us toward our truest paths. May we walk boldly in the light of our own authenticity, embracing the journey with courage and grace. To every embridled spirit listening, keep shining, keep striving, and remember that in the symphony of life, your voice is a vital melody. Much love to you all.